Riot has once more decided to fiddle around in the middle of the season, and now we have debuffed and changed dragons, more local gold on the heralds, and nerfed combat runes. Typically laners wouldn't care, but in this jungle guide I'm going to have a look at how you must jungle in order to carry and win in the new meta as we head towards the end of Season 12. And as you always know, when they change dragons and objective focus, it's going to compromise and change how junglers path and carry in the early to mid game. I'm going to show you what to do and what not to do, and those who can get ahead of pathing and tempo will definitely have more carry potential as we move forward. So as always, direct 1v1 coaching is available on my Patreon. Don't forget the live companion guides linked in the description below from Zar.gg, as well as my Gosu bootcamp coming up at the end of August in a few weeks, as well as the first week of September. 10 days of pure knowledge gain for junglers and laners alike, all through the link in the description below via Gosu Academy, myself and Coach Kybit. And don't hesitate, just do it. You want to be the best, you want to reach your goals? This is how you do it. Direct infusion, activation, learning. And on that note, let's jump into our gameplay. As you will see, because of the shift of the bone plating cooldown going up, the conditioning numbers going down, unflinching going down, and of course sudden impact going up, very interestingly, we have the most boring root sense of all time. Now the most important thing is what you're seeing if you watch the Graze video from last weekend is more active and dynamic pathing early, specifically on the red side, looking for red Raptor's Grump. This will take you in a whole different variety of outcomes, a whole multiversal pathing route if you like. You can watch that for full details. But also when you're on the blue side, sequencing down to shadow bot lane is most important. And if it was a bottom lane meta before, then it's still a bottom lane meta now. But it's the dragons, my friends, and I will put a full change list on the screen now so you can see. Not every dragon got the same treatment. I mean, they're all tankier to take, and of course they have less AD, so they do less damage to you because it's going to take you longer to do them. But you know, the Cloud Dragon really got double its value. That's really huge. Hextech Dragon was already pretty damn good, and all of a sudden you're going up 50%. Now it's 9% attack speed and 9 ability haste. That's huge. Now naturally, that means we want to path down so that we can have Prior on securing these dragons with our bot lane, creating Prior through double kills on their enemy bot, making them rage and all the good stuff. Now you would have noticed that Viego here puts a late ward around the pixel bush. That's because he's against a Trundle. Now Trundle can do invades. Trundle can also gank early. But Trundle typically will look to 3 camp, 4 camp into action, so having a ward there gives huge protection against the randomness. At the same time, if you're against any sort of invading jungler and you're worried about kind of being invaded by them, this late ward and holding onto your warding totem is way more valuable. If you're definitely going to be ganking like an Elise or so on, then the scanner can provide more value than this. However, remember, they did nerf the refillables and the health potion healing directly as well, so when you're having these fights and replenishing yourself afterwards, you're not gonna get as much juice. And is it that much? No, not necessarily, but it could impact, you know, like one auto kills you now versus if you had the healing, you wouldn't have died. So the good, yes, I would like to see more invades, more active ganking angles that allow flexi clears like we talked about last week with Zib, but at the same time, this invade is just giga dumb. If you're gonna do this, you must have a scanner. Never do this kind of pathing in invading if you don't, because look, you don't have Prio, it's level 1, 2, 3, and the enemy laners will collapse on you. Now yes, Trundle can just run at him even without combat sums, even without real combat secondary runes, and win because he just yeets your AD and chomps you down and attack speeds you to death. It's really an obnoxious champion in that sense. Invading on wolves is never a good idea. And you might think he's not a jungle main, but yeah, he is. The match history to all these games are always linked below. And now basically what does this mean for the Viego? He was gonna do a standard old 5 camp, shadow the Trundle bot lane, look to get that crab, look to create Prior bot lane, maybe shadow into the mid lane, double scuttle, all the typical clears that you would want to do in the current meta. So this is good. The Trundle though really wasn't interested in that sort of play and just wanted to be hyper aggressive, super coin flippy, and obviously if you don't get anything from it, you can compromise your game drastically. So now the Viego, he has an assist, he has done his blue side quadrant, he now needs to go to the bottom side of the map. Now, could he look to counter-invade the Trundle? Sure, but as we just saw, he's not going to win that against a lethal tempo Trundle, and the fact that his bot lane has already died and they're pushed in means he is not going to be able to do that, nor will he have Scuttle Prior. Therefore, he goes to the Raptors into the red. I think it would have been more prudent to perhaps do the red into the Raptors just to delay and kind of throw off if the Trundle decides to do some kind of invade. And you can see here the nervousness. He's pulling it up. He doesn't even want to go into the bush. He's willing to coin flip a smite just to get it and get out. He doesn't want to face check or take too long taking this camp in case the Trundle shows up. As we can see, but he wouldn't know, the Trundle is obviously not doing that. And the Viego now can do one of the most smart things you can do in this current meta. Please just learn to give up the fucking crab on the side where you don't have Prior and you don't win 1v1. It's pretty simple, okay? Swap sides, go to the top scuttle. You know he's gonna have the bottom scuttle, and from there we can just go and maybe do some cheeky counter jungling of his Raptors because we know he didn't do that through very simple basic tracking. I will link my tracking video below if you want a bit more advanced stuff though. Obviously Trundle's gonna try and double scuttle in this sense, although it should be pretty obvious what's happening. He tries a little bit of a drive-by in the mid lane and also to do this, and the Viego does 200 IQ, big bring, E back timings. He throws his E out to mislead him and just goes back in the bush that he knows isn't warded. Nice. Now, we did try to create some sort of bottom prior. We weren't able to do that because of the invade of the Trundle. He didn't really help them either. They're helping themselves. But we know the Trundle's on the top side at this point and going to be desperate to make a play considering how far he's behind in CS, which is huge. When an enemy jungler tries to be super proactive and over-aggressive, and their sort of aggressive plays don't pay off, your straight up regular pathing and experience optimization through sequencing and counter jungling can be enough to get you those leads. But at the same time, if you path properly, in this case go back to the top side sequence down, typically you will find yourself in the best place to make the best plays. In this situation, if Trundle goes back to base and doesn't chop, you can just go down and counter gank in bottom lane. But if he does do an aggressive gank on the top side and he doesn't track what you're doing, well then you can counter gank him. Remember, when you don't track the enemy jungler sequencing, especially when you are the Trundle in this situation, you will be counter-ganked and it's no one's fault but your own. You're high risk, you're predictable, and you're wasting everything on a Mel fight. A Mel fight. Now I think at this point it's pretty damn obvious that the Trundle did in fact take his bottom side grump and so on, so once he respawns again from the death realm, he's gonna go to the bottom side. VIEGO did try and chase down the Gnar to potentially get a bit more, but don't overcommit, don't greed, be safe. Understand now that we want to get that first dragon as soon as possible so that we can then get that 8-minute first herald, because even though they buffed the dragons, they also gave 200 local gold to those who take the herald. So, you know, if you're someone who builds Kempang Chainsword and you're like, whoa, why'd they put 200 gold cost on that? Well, just get yourself a local herald. Now, as you know, we always like the outside in rule, you know, and that's a scuttle that's spawning. So you could, in theory, go to the raptors and then to the scuttle, be there to fist fight and secure, then do so. But if you think, okay, look, I don't win 1v1 anyway, I kind of track that he's going to be in the zone, he's going to go for the scuttle himself, he's going to look to gank bot lane, let me just do a highly valuable edge camp in the Krugs and then kind of shatter the situation. Maybe I can force a fight with a bit of prio that my bottom lane now has. And that's exactly what the VIEGO does. Sometimes giving up a scuttle to win a fight is absolutely worth, because from there you get the dragon. Now Johnny Walker 69 420 XXX is going to say, oh, what if my bottom lane doesn't have prio? Well then, my son, you basically say, well, Trundle should be on the crab. I'm going to spend that time ganking and killing his bottom lane, shoving and then contesting that dragon. And because it's going to be so much harder for him to do solo specifically, considering he's so far behind, we will easily be able to collapse on him and kill him and secure it for ourselves. So it works either way. And if he does gank it first, you will be there to counter gank. Just putting yourself in that right position to make that play is all you need to do. And making sure your early game gets you as strong as possible to win these fights is what I've been trying to teach you all for years. And after the dragon is the most important facet of this new meta. From this, you can do your raptors and sequence upside to your blue side quadrant. You know the Trundle's going to reset now because he just took bottom lane camps and go back to the top side. He has no choice but to farm a little bit and get his second red. It also means he's going to sequence down and he cannot fight you while you have 6 and he has nothing. Therefore, we can extend our sequence, have a good old-fashioned extended sequence, and just take the 8-minute herald as it spawns. The right pathing the whole game, the right tracking of the Trundle, putting himself in the right position to make the right plays. So it's not always an exact science, but if you've set this game up properly for proper ping pong of objectives, then you could have no issue steamrolling the game. And ping ponging objectives, for most of you who don't know, it's a term I came up with years ago when it was the meta and we've kind of come full circle, and that's when you want that 6 to 7 minute first dragon, and then you set yourself up to go top side to take the first herald. Then you of course path to the bottom side again, counter jungle, invade, dive, and you take the second dragon, then the second herald, then the third dragon, fourth dragon, and now you're playing for souls and barons and just closing the game out. And if you do that properly, yeah, you're kind of coin flipping elder fights early, but with the stats giveth to you by the new dragons, I think that's not really going to be an issue and you should be able to win those fights. And obviously if you throw, you throw. I mean, it's got nothing to do with the strategy being wrong, just make sure you are being intelligent about the plays you make to win the game. And that's why I made the That's Why You Throw Games video, because people throw games from this, so watch that if that's something you do. Now you would have noticed that he stayed for the RNG crab, he moved into the enemy side jungle knowing Trundle's going to be on the bottom side again. He goes and just uses the herald for selfish solo plays. This is okay if you feel like there's no lane that you can really win. And if you have a look at the nature of the scoreboard, we've been down in gold the whole game. Why? Because enemy bot lane is perma-smurfing, our top lanes are kind of random, and mid lanes are just AFK doing nothing. So infusing yourself when you don't foresee a 2 to 3 plate usage in the mid, bot, or top by 14 minutes is fine. It's a little bit selfish, but it's okay if you know what to do with it. He's able to complete the Blade of the Rune King now, take his red, and contest any single fight in the river. And this is what we want to do. At this point now, we are 2-0-1. We've got the gold lead ourselves, not our team, but ourselves. And yes, unfortunately, Talia does have that roam prior from the mid lane due to her ultimate, but here's where things get a little bit more interesting now. Typically, you would think, okay, well, dragon spawning, let me get my blue quadrant sequence down, right? No, my petit chéri, that is way too safe, way too non-aggressive. Look at the map here. Yes, you died, but you're still 3-1-1. You see your team fighting, you see your team fisting. You are now Viego with a gold lead. You are the only one on your team that should be allowed to fight, so you need to be there specifically when it's good in your favor. If it's not in your favor, obviously don't. But because you personally are so far ahead, and let's face it, 99% of you are not playing in this particular elo range, you need to be able to mechanically outplay a lot of these situations. Therefore, win the fight, win the skirmish, use that pressure to push into his topside jungle, push him out, get some deep vision, steal some camps if necessary. You see someone over pushing on the mid lane, go there and clean it up. And you're seeing all the kills come forth. They cannot match your pressure on the map. They cannot deal with your Viego resets. And if you're playing any jungler that's ahead, you can do this. I know Viego has an easier time of it, but the whole point is don't default into a blue quadrant sequencing down to the dragon conservatively. Use your lead. And now once you've done that, you see the Drake spawning, take it. I did the challenges video for junglers, the best ones you need to have, and one of the best ones is securing those epic monsters within 30 seconds of them spawning. So make sure you're doing that with objective ping pong, especially the Hextech Dragon. Yeah, that's good. Right now, the transition into the mid game here. Once you've done that, back to base, you start to buy items. Don't default into full clearing while your team pushes the map. You have now recovered quite nicely. You are 7-1-1. You need to keep that pressure up. So take a camp while you kind of shadow your teammates. Look to control those rivers. Swoop from side to side. You're looking to push into the jungle, make a pick, steal some camps, and kind of shadow your laners should they decide to fight. But at the same time, if your team take bad fights, as you would have seen from the Graves video last week, don't be too afraid to let your team die on the other side of the map if you can just push a whole mid lane tower and wave yourself. But the crucial thing is tower damage, yes? Translate that into tower damage. Now, once we've done that, of course, push the wave, hit the towers. If you have enough for itemization, please go back to base and treat yourself. Go on, you deserve it. And now we're gonna go to the top side. Why? Because second herald is spawning, and I don't really like kind of giving this up in theory. This not only from a gold amount is really highly valuable, but also just denying them a bounty, denying them push pressure should something random happen. And obviously he's gonna be desperate, right? The Trundle's gonna be desperate to make this play, ruin his day. Kill him, take the herald. And this next move for me is so good for solo queue. Even if your team are complete vegetables and dying somewhere else, if you can use this herald, push a tower, push a wave, push another tower, tier 2, and really open up the map and then collapse into the team fight yourself, it's such a damn good play because a lot of the times you get resets, they have no spells, they're low, and if you're fed, it's really easy. Obviously, our Viego dies, and this isn't a great example of what I'm trying to say, but the principle is good here, okay? That's what we're still looking to do. Split pressure, wave pressure, tower pressure, objectives into tower conversion ratios. All the kills in the world mean nothing if you're not playing like this Viego in terms of objective and tower secure damage. Now, the next rule in the mid game after this, obviously, is we want that third dragon. We want that soul point, because eventually, you know, you could trade a dragon for Baron and things like that. Make sure you are pathing outward in if you want to join your team in the mid lane. Now, if you want to do Krugs, Red Raptors, that might take too long considering the setup required for the dragon and the fact that the enemy team and your team are posturing to fight. So we can just go to base, take the red, take the raptors, still outside in, towards where we want to go, collapse with the team, and look for a good juicy fight. Again, though, really try not to die. I know it's easier said than done, but your team fighter mechanics are crucial in these situations. You must stay alive, because that third dragon is vital for the success of objective ping pong, and of course the game in this meta. Don't overchase, use the pressure you have to fall back and secure the dragon. Be a little bit more conservative in this regard, because as you can see, you are the carry monster on this team, and every time you die and they get something back, it can kind of lessen the ability for you to win the game. So again, good principles, just like the split push, but be mindful of your teamfighter mechanics, your positioning, and trying not to die in these crucial moments. And that's why I chose this, what to do and what not to do. And now we really are online. So ideally, if you got that third dragon, you can definitely start to push the side waves around the Baron. Look to get those deep picks, look to get those deep visions, because now we can bait them, we can fight them, we can clean them up. Don't be too hasty about it. You're seeing highlights of what's going on now. A lot of times people kind of coin flip the Baron. Just keep killing them as a team if they show up with uneven numbers, because now their back timers are so distorted, they're never going to be grouped again. And you're going to use this as a trampoline for the mid and the late game. However, the whole goal here is still deep vision, picks, counter jungle, fall back, take the Baron, win the fights, don't coin flip it, reset now, push the waves up again, and essentially the same process on the bottom side while you secure that final dragon. This in theory should be your soul, and with the Baron plus the soul, you can typically close and end. I don't really want to talk about macro in this video, just about how to jungle, and I think from 1 to 20, we've really covered the whole principle. Yeah, we gave up one dragon, but I think if we don't die and we don't give it up, the whole goal is completed, and obviously we didn't really gank bottom lane, which is why I like this as well. If you have a very successful first clear and you just 5 can't gank bottom lane, this is a little bit more easy. Obviously, we had to play from a negative game state here, and yet we still got every single objective -1. That says a lot about how the jungler played and passed safely, knowing when to give up, knowing when to trank and counter gank. He made the Trundle look like an absolute buffoon. And if you want to learn how to do that from the best in the world, click the video in the box in the top right. And if you're curious about the dynamic pathing needed to carry games and not throw and just basically be a savant, click the video in the box in the bottom left.